Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zulfah Rani binti Haji Abdul Rani from U62. So the topic I've chosen is fertilizers and nitrogen, or in short, FNN. Since ancient times, farmers had used organic fertilizers such as manure, excrement of zebras and bats, and ground animal bones to enrich the soil. The soil and promote plant growth. So, in other words, organic fertilizers contain only plant or animal-based materials that are either a byproduct or end product of naturally occurring processes. Organic fertilizers work over time to create a healthy growing environment. Towards the end of the 19th century, scientists began to worry about whether the crop output will be enough to sustain a rapidly increasing population. The problems with crop plants is that when they are harvested, substances such as nitrates, phosphates, and potassium are also removed with them. Now, the topsoil is the most fertile part of the land, yet it only goes down a few inches. Some nutrients can be replenished naturally, but it is often over a long period of time and so may not be available for new crops and as soon as required. And the best solution to this problem would be to increase crop yields by inorganic fertilizers. Now, before that, let's go in general. What are fertilizers? Fertilizers are chemicals that are added to soil to supply nutrients to make it more fertile. The chemicals in fertilizers contain essential elements required for plant growth. Fertilizers make crops grow faster and bigger, so crop yields are increased. They are minerals which must first dissolve in water so that plants can absorb them through their roots. So, plants need many different elements for growth. What are the 5 basic requirements of a plant? They are nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, water, and sunlight. The 3 macronutrients here all help to produce a higher yield. Now let's focus on nitrogen. Nitrogen is very important for leaf growth as it is part of the chlorophyll molecule, thus gives plant their green color and is involved in creating food for the plant through photosynthesis. So, lack of nitrogen shows up as general yellowing or the chlorosis of plant. Next, phosphorus. Phosphorus is found in many of the organic substances the plant produces, such as nucleic acids and adenosine triphosphate or the ATP. Phosphorus is very important for normal development and timely maturity. They use it for photosynthesis, storage and transfer of energy, and respiration. While potassium here plays an important part in photosynthesis. Potassium regulates the opening and closing of stomata, thus it regulates the uptake of carbon dioxide. Fertilizers increase crop production by replacing essential elements used by previous crop or by boosting levels of such elements. Now let's talk about nitrogen cycle. What do we know about nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen cycle is a circulation of nitrogen in various forms through nature. It is a component of proteins and nucleic acids and is essential to life on Earth. Through a series of microbial transformations, nitrogen is made available to plants, which in turn ultimately sustain all animal life. As we all know, the atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. But this nitrogen is an extremely stable, unreactive molecule. So to break it apart so that its atoms can combine with other atoms, It requires the input of substantial amounts of energy. Bacteria here play a key role in the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen enters the living world by way of bacteria, which convert atmospheric nitrogen into biologically usable forms in a process called nitrogen fixation. Some species of nitrogen-fixing bacteria are free-living in soil or in water, while others are beneficial symbionts that live inside of plants. Nitrogen-fixing microorganisms capture atmospheric nitrogen by converting it to ammonia, which can be taken up by plants and used to make organic molecules. The nitrogen-containing molecules are passed to animals when the plants are eaten. They may be incorporated into the animal's body or broken down and excreted as waste, such as urea found in urine. Now, nitrogen doesn't remain forever in the bodies of living organisms. Instead, it is converted back into nitrogen gas by bacteria. Nitrogen compounds from dead organisms or wastes are converted into ammonia by bacteria, and the ammonia is converted into nitrites and nitrates. In the end, the nitrates are made into nitrogen gas by denitrifying bacteria, in which there are microorganisms whose action results in the conversion of nitrates in soil to free atmospheric nitrogen, thus depleting the soil fertility and reduce the agricultural productivity. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room knows about the Haber process. Back in the 18th or the 19th century, the only natural source of nitrates were Chilean saltpeter and Germany. Luckily for Germany, a physical chemist had found the solution to produce ammonia. In order to tap into the vast reserves of atmospheric nitrogen, in 1910, the Haber process was introduced by Dr. Fritz Haber. By Dr. Fritz Haber and Karl Bosch as industrial nitrogen fixation process to overcome the strong triple bonds in nitrogen's diatomic molecules. The nitrogen will then be combined with nitrogen to form ammonia, which is more useful. In the Haber process, nitrogen and hydrogen gas are fed into the reactor vessel in the ratio of 1:3 by volume, where they are subjected to a pressure of 200 atmospheres and a temperature between 400 to 500 degrees Celsius. A catalyst of fine iron oxide is also fed into the reactor. The resulting ammonia will then be liquefied, and any unreacted gases are fed back into the reactor to be recycled. Now let's talk about the comparisons between organic fertilizers and inorganic fertilizers. Organic fertilizers are not pure chemical substances and may contain valuable micronutrients. It also adds organic matter to the soil, in which organic matter is important because it affects the soil structure and can reduce erosion and improve water holdings. Organic fertilizers are released only when the soil is warm and moist. However, they rely on soil organisms to break down organic matter, so nutrients are released more slowly than they are from inorganic fertilizers. This slow release method reduces the risk of nutrient leaching, but it takes time to supply nutrients to plants. In contrast, inorganic fertilizers are concentrated sources of micronutrients and can therefore be applied in smaller amounts. They are clean and lack the strong smell of many organic fertilizers. Inorganic fertilizers also provide this nutrition in plant-ready form immediately. However, the concentration of nutrient increases the risk of burning the plant, and the rapid increase of nutrients may leach them deeply into the soil and water table where plants cannot access them. So, in conclusion, fertilizers play an increasingly large role in food production. As the amount of fertile land decreases, crop yields will have to increase or people will starve. Without synthetic ammonia-based fertilizers, the world will be unable to grow enough food to feed its population. Inorganic fertilizers are responsible for 40 to 60% of the world's food production and cannot be replaced by organic sources. So in short, half of the billion people in this world may not be able to live without fertilizers due to short of food crops. That's all. Thank you.
As for your topic, I'm curious, why did you choose it?
Well, that's simple. Humans need food to live, right? So can all of us imagine how do we live without food? So I'm saying that we may not live without food, and since due to the rapidly increased population, food crops decreases. So we need more food to supply for the people to live.
What about the conditions then in Brunei? Do you know anything about it? Food production? I mean, how is it like?
Well, in Brunei, the food production is quite okay, since Brunei also produce like stable foods such as rice. Yeah. Other than that, Brunei also have this fertilizer industry started from last year or back in 2004. So though the soil in Brunei are mostly not fertile, so there will be more fertilizers used for the soil in Brunei.
So you know how the weather in our country is very hot, right?
Yeah.
And there are different climates worldwide. Does that mean there are modifications to the fertilizers, like how we can bear the heat in our country, or for example, in Scandinavian countries where it's very, very cold? Do they do anything to it to make it more bearable to how the conditions are?
That depends on the country itself. So some crops are dependent like sorry, can you repeat the question?
So it's basically just a simple yes or no. Like, are there modifications done to these fertilizers to make it to, I guess, for it to be optimum in the different climate conditions that we have worldwide?
I'm not quite sure myself, but I think it's a yes.
Okay, thank you.
So as you mentioned, the things that we saw, the Haber process, is 1910, right? And then going by, it is actually, the theme is ideas that change the world. So I'm curious, what may you know of like the more recent processes, perhaps, that is also like is going to be able to release nitrogen more effectively for fertilizer wise. So I was hoping for something a bit more recent. Do you have anything that you have researched into that?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure about the recent fertilizers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Zulfah.
Good afternoon, Zulfah. Thank you for the informative presentation. I have two questions. First, if we're given a choice of organic or inorganic fertilizers, which one will you choose, or which one will you use?
Well, it depends on am I like desperate to get the outcome of the food crop. So if like some people might choose inorganic, since it increases the fertility of soil faster than organic soil.
If there is no Haber process before discovered, how would you improve crop yield?
Well, I'm not quite sure about that, but I think we will just focus on the organic fertilizers. Yeah, even though Haber process may not be available to the world.